Hold that thought, everybody. I'm David Cruz. If you're looking for your mayor or your council member or any other member of the administration, they're probably not in City Hall today. They're probably down in Atlantic City for the annual League of Municipalities conference. And that's music to the ears of the executive director of the League of Municipalities. He's Mike Cerra, and he joins us now. Mike, good to see you, man.
Good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So you're in the exhibit hall, I'm assuming, right now. How good are you
We are on the
feeling
exhibit
today?
floor.
There's a lot of buzz about the conference this year.
There is a lot of buzz. It's a large crowd. We're shaping up. This is probably going to be our biggest event in 10 years. Uh, and, the floor is packed with exhibitors, a lot of great programming. We have the governor-elect is going to be here on the floor tomorrow
Yeah.
to do a taping. We're going to have the governor doing our keynote address tomorrow. There is a lot of buzz and a lot of positive feeling right now.
So how many people you got this year? I know it's always tens of thousands. What, about 15, I'm going to guess.
A little north of that. The turnstiles are still open, but right now we're guessing that we've had about 17,500 or so go through those turnstiles.
So we're a couple of weeks after Election Day. Are Democrats walking around just like knocking things over with their chests puffed out?
Oh well, they've been in some panels here, and we just had the legislative leaders panel. So a little bit, I think they're feeling they have a little bit of a mandate, and the voters have spoken, but a lot of the issues that local officials care about aren't really of a partisan nature. They're a wise man once talked about no Republican way or Democratic way to fill a pothole, and that's kind of what we're about here. So that panel was bipartisan and had Republican leadership, Senate and Senate leadership, and we're talking about positive changes for taxpayers, for infrastructure changes, for housing, for the state health benefits, which is really the topic of the day and
Yeah.
maybe the topic of the week.
No doubt about it. Part of the buzz, I guess, this year, as you mentioned, is the fact that the governor-elect is going to be there. In fact, she's doing a taping with Brianna Venozzi at NJ Spotlight News. So that will be really kind of her first presentation to the state as governor-elect. There's going to be a lot of interest in that interview.
Yes, I think so. I think a lot of folks are already introduced to her, certainly the mayors in her district, but this is really an opportunity to for a statewide introduction, because it's going to be broadcast. It's going to be in front of our audience, but it's also going to be broadcast statewide on a myriad of issues. And Brianna will do a great job.
Of course. And the governor, the current governor, is also going to deliver a keynote. So there is going to be a lot of activity there over the next few days.
Yes, absolutely. And we're hearing today that the governor is going to be addressing the state health benefits, maybe laying out some concepts for a proposal. We haven't seen it yet, but we're hopeful that it'll advance the ball in terms of achieving some savings for employers, for employees, and reducing costs overall.
Yeah, a lot of people who aren't at the League of Municipalities conference right now in Atlantic City, they may wonder, what does the League of Municipalities do? What kind of stuff do you advocate for, and what's on your agenda for 2026 with this new governor and legislature?
Sure. Well, the Reader's Digest version is the League is a nonprofit, nonpartisan association of the municipal governments in New Jersey. So the mayors, council members, employees are our members, and we convene once a year here in Atlantic City, but we're year round. And part of our efforts, in addition to education such as this, is advocacy. So in lame duck, and going forward, our focus is on state health benefits, as I mentioned, and reducing costs for not only just employers, but for our taxpayers and for our employees. I think we need to look at infrastructure issues going forward. Water quality, in particular, is another topic of discussion down here going forward. But all sorts of infrastructure, broadband, energy costs, which of course have been a big issue. Housing and economic development, and how can we tie job growth to where the housing is going to be? and other measures. And overall affordability is you've been the theme of the election. Theme of now is trying to make New Jersey more affordable for our taxpayers.
It's also not easy, right? Because you have got Warren County municipalities with different needs than, even Ocean County municipalities, let alone Hudson or Union or Bergen.
Well, that's true. You could talk about the very northwest of the state and Cape May. What I found though is very interesting is when we get together here and local officials who may have no other reason or opportunity to peer and network with one another and talk about this, find a lot of commonality in the issues that they're facing. So there are some unique issues. The shore certainly faces some environmental issues that maybe other communities do not. But across the board, a lot of the issues they find common ground, and we're seeking common solutions.
All right, Mike Cerra, Executive Director of the League of Municipalities, right in the busiest time of his year. Thanks for taking a few minutes, man. Good to see you.
Oh, it's good to see you as well. And maybe next year we'll do this on the floor together.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Talk to you soon.
Thanks. Take care.
Also headed to Atlantic City eventually is Senator John Burzichelli, who sits on the Senate Oversight Committee, which this week began the conversation about the future of public television. John Burzichelli joins us now. Senator, good to see you, man. Thanks for coming on.
It's good to be with you, David, because New Jersey television would not be the same if you weren't active in some way.
That is very nice of you to say. Appreciate that. We should also say that I'm not a disinterested party in this issue. A lot of people who are watching now know that I put in a lot of years over at public television. So, but this is not about yesterday. This is about tomorrow. The future of public television. We should tell people that it's not like there's not going to be public television on July 1st, right? I mean, the state has to have a public broadcaster, no?
Well, it should. I mean, I don't think by law it has to, but it should. And maybe in statute it's required. And you in the streaming work you're doing in the digital world, I mean, the term television itself has changed.
Yeah.
So the idea is, content out, people being able to see what their government is doing. People like yourself being able to report and help guide people to understand what's taking place, so people can weigh in with their opinion. So the word television is it's just a word now.
You can't even call it public broadcasting because broadcasting is such a broad term, I guess, by definition.
Correct. I mean, look, yeah, and David, it's like people keep saying, I'm listening to the NFL and they're saying, well, we got to look at the game films. There hasn't been film in the NFL for 15 years. But so when you say television, it's just like using the term film when the NFL talks about, well, we're going to go look at the game film. There is no game film.
Some sort of video transmission system.
Correct.
But so what did you hear at this meeting? It was not entirely what you expected, but tell me what you did hear.
Well, of course, we heard impassioned calling for the state to be invested and to be providing at least a backbone structure of some kind that this public broadcasting can become more robust in this state. It's definitely needed. The NET experiment was not as successful as people had hoped it would be. I was not favorable to it at the time. It was agreed to. It was a Christie administration. A lot of moving pieces at that time. That didn't work, but at least we were alive to some degree. And now we have to regroup. So there's an opportunity. People spoke to us, talked about what that could look like. I was actually hoping for we're working to get more nuts and bolt details on where we are financially, tower rental fees, what our assets are, what we're working with as base money, and what the void is. And then there's going to be a request for proposals, probably by this administration on the way out the door, so this information could come in. Last time they did it, it was NET. They were negotiating with them, and then it blew up because the governor wouldn't put $8 million in. So we're going to be starting fresh with the new administration. And I'm telling you, and there's going to be some form of public broadcasting in New Jersey when the NET deal ends on June 30th. We want to get some voice in what the structure of that RFP is, based in some of that testimony that we heard the other day. And by the way, conversations with veterans like yourself are ongoing because the legislature would like guidance. This is a different world. This is not just about broadcast towers any longer. So there's a lot to be done here, and a lot of good can come to this if we keep our heads on straight. With the bottom line being, people in New Jersey. We invest in Netflix. We underwrite all kinds of things across the state. It is appropriate, the tax money, underwrite a communication network. So its government, local government, county government, school boards, state house can easily communicate with its people so its people can participate in its government. So, and nothing prevents people from starting up their own operations. I mean, look what you're doing here. This is very valuable. And you're an important voice. So, News 12 stopped doing what they were doing because, again, it wasn't commercially viable for them under the weight they were carrying. So others are trying.
We also heard during that session from several universities, Montclair, probably chief among them, but Ramapo was in there. I think Kane was represented. There is a network, including the New Jersey Performing Arts Center, that could conceivably, including though some Chamber of Commerce types, right? There is support for something like this.
David, there's content everywhere. Anyone carrying a cell phone can submit content if properly coordinated to screen it, make sure it's appropriate, obviously. But there's nothing but content. New Jersey is just a vibrant place. I mean, from scandals to sensationalism, we got it all. So, so from a standpoint of program, if you can't figure out how to get people to watch you, you're not paying attention to what's going on around you, because it's a rich environment for content. But this government part, because you heard me say, others have said it too, we need a model that has that has a state house C-SPAN feel to it during the day, committee meetings, all committee rooms wired, that kind of stuff. People have an interest in those sort of things. And by the way, so we did not, we should have invited you to that hearing too. You could have provided some details for us. We never got ideas of where viewership was sitting, how effective New Jersey Spotlight was before NET starved it for money. We need to understand that too, just so, because we're going to have to make the argument as to why this investment matters. I mean, philosophically, we know, and I think there's a strong argument to be made that properly structured, with a little bit of priming the pump by the state and the Treasury, that this thing can be robust and we can have a very good service.
I'm all for robust journalism in New Jersey. I think we need more of it. So I'm with you on that. Anytime you want to invite me, I'll certainly come and share my 2 cents. Lastly, though, this is going to come down to votes, right? I mean, 15 years ago, Montclair and WNET were kind of the two finalists, and then it came down to votes, didn't it?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, David, I was there. Michael Aaron sat in the well of the Senate when we lost our argument by 1 vote.
Yeah.
And I still don't know why that senator made that vote, but that person made that vote. And then Christie administration put in place its plan to make the move it made. And we're still looking for the $332 million that was gained when bandwidth was sold, whatever the correct term is.
Yeah.
That was supposed to go into a fund that was supposed to be held essentially in trust to help fund public broadcasting. It got absorbed into a budget when we had no money. Maybe we should go back and put some back in. We're sitting on a $6 billion surplus, a fragile surplus, I should mention. But nonetheless, we can afford to do this, but we do want to get it right. Because, again, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, the conversation has just begun. Senator John Burzichelli, good to see you, man. You're gonna you got a walking thing with the governor today. You can maybe talk to her about it. Governor-elect.
I just talked to her staff. I asked what she'd be wearing so I could recognize her.
All right, man. Good to see you. Thanks.
Thanks, David.
There was an interesting piece in the Times this week about how Latinos in New Jersey who had gone for Trump last year had flooded back to the Democrats this year and played a big part in that blue wave from Union City to Perth Amboy to Passaic to Camden. So now comes time to parlay that support into access to the front office. Just back from Atlantic City is Arlene Quiñones Perez. She is a partner and director of diversity and inclusion at the CODIS Fitzpatrick Cole Giblin. She's part of Latino Leaders NJ, whose goal is to ensure Latino representation in the new administration. Counselor, welcome. Good to see you again.
Thank you for having me, David.
So I guess there are 15 cabinet level positions, but we're not trying to get ahead of ourselves, although I imagine that you think that there's a couple of spots in that cabinet where Latinos could fit comfortably, yeah?
100%. And so what we have learned, administration after administration, is to make sure that we try to be active in terms of how we handle these things. We know there's a transition. We know that there is going to be a lot of positions that are going to change. And so this time we decided to come together and try to have resumes in the door before we even had an official candidate from election night. And so a number of months ago, we brought Latino leaders from statewide organizations together that I've worked with them from the past. And it was easy to kind of bring a group together to say, okay, is this something we want to look at? Here's a depository that was created for this purpose. I think it could be very useful. And does everyone want to do this together? And the answer was unequivocally yes. We absolutely want to be involved together, and because we know that there is, power in unity.
The point here is not ethnicity; it's availability and ability for these positions.
It always is. And the only thing that we ever try to make sure is that if someone says we don't have someone that is of that level as a cabinet position or something, we want to make sure that we always have resumes that are able to say that's not true. Here are, 70 resumes that we had prepared the Wednesday after election that are more than capable of serving in different capacities throughout the administration.
Yeah, we heard Mikie Sherrill speak a little Spanish.
Mi español no es muy bueno, pero quiero hablarle directamente a la comunidad latina. Soy Mikie Sherrill, candidata por gobernadora. Fui pilota en la Marina y fiscal federal.
Coming out of hearing Mikie Sherrill speak Spanish, Latinos still flocked to her away from Trump. Was it Mikie Sherrill or was it Donald Trump that drove Latinos back to the Democrats?
Any non-native speaker that wants to attempt to speak Spanish, I think is amazing. So it just reminds us that, hey, you can talk our language a little bit. That's great.
Yeah.
And so, I do think that a portion of the turnout you saw was a against Trump vote. And for the Latinos, I think that was part of it, and a concern that he did not live up to the commitment they believed he made to the community, especially
A
when it
little
comes
buyer's
to
remorse, maybe.
I would say, I don't think, even though we heard on the campaign trail from Donald Trump what we thought he was going to do, and some of us, I think, had a clearer picture, but it's only because we do this every day. And I don't expect people that don't do this every day, that is looking to, buy milk and bread for their families, to see those things. It's just not. And so when you deal with that, and now you are seeing immigration come and take away your neighbor, or smash in a window and their kids are in the back seat to take out someone that you know now how clearly it is affecting you, and you know that it's not what you voted for. So I think, one, you had a great candidate in Mikie Sherrill. I think she, was very accessible to the Latino community, and you put that together with what we see happening on the streets. I think those two things combined it to have such a high turnout for the Latino community this cycle.
And also, I think, the heavy-handed way that ICE approached this, even to the extent of what happened at Delaney Hall in Newark, where they arrested the mayor, and now they're trying to charge the congresswoman with assault. I think that also impacted a lot of non-Latinos, wouldn't you say?
I would say, I think you have people that are truly frustrated with what we're seeing, because this is not the America we want at all. We want an America where it doesn't matter what color you are or what you look like, that you can safely walk down the street without being kidnapped. And I think we're seeing that. And it's very concerning to a lot of us. Would we be okay with getting criminals off the street? Of course. But if you're identifying based on color, that's where it becomes unacceptable. It's illegal, right? We know this. And so what I think you see the Trump administration doing is exactly that. And it's becoming very difficult for a community to even go out in public and not feel concerned that they're not going to be able to come back home.
Yeah, I know that this group that you are part of is very diverse, and we also should point out that the Latinos, almost more than many other ethnicities, are not a monolith. Country to country, you have philosophical differences among Latinos, but I think there is some close to unanimity on this sense that there needs to be some kind of protections for immigrants in New Jersey. And that takes us to the Immigrant Trust Act, which is an agenda item that Latinos, including those in the Latino caucus in the legislature, and immigrants' rights activists across the state have been pushing for. I know you don't speak for everybody there, but it's an agenda item that's coming up, yeah?
I would imagine it is. I'm not sure you can actually discuss the Latino community without putting that piece in. And yes, I do think that we are not a monolithic group. We have a lot of different ideas of what's something that we value versus what we don't. And none of that is necessarily right or wrong. It's just we, depending on where you come from, right? I'm Puerto Rican. Is immigration necessarily my issue? No. But is it? Yes, because I care about my neighbors? Of
Yeah.
course it is, right?
Yeah.
And so I think you have that across the board and very different opinions. But I'm not sure you can have a conversation about the Latino community without that conversation because it does affect kids going to school and being concerned that they can't come home. I think it affects, even going to a hospital where if you have to go there for an urgent need, whether you're going to be arrested. I think it's that boundary that has been crossed where there's no longer a safe space where you can get care or education or even go to church that I think you have to have that discussion because it also affects our businesses. We have so many small businesses that have a lot of revenue coming into New Jersey, and it is being affected by this very piece because our community doesn't want to necessarily go out and go shopping for bread or milk if they think they're not going to come back home with it.
Yeah. All right. Ensuring access to the administration and impact on the agenda. Arlene Quiñones Perez, always good to see you. Thanks for coming on, and we'll be following up with this.
Thank you for having me, David.
And let's hold that thought this week. Thanks to John Burzichelli and Mike Cerra for joining us as well. And to all of you, please subscribe to the channel to see updates and special events like next Thursday, our first holiday special. Stay tuned. I'm David Cruz. Thanks for streaming. We'll see you next week.